Welcome back to Storytime with Dog. That's me, I'm Og, and I am here to read you a story. I seem to have a pot holder on my hand. It's a Halloween one. I don't know why I have a pot holder on my hand. Maybe I was cooking earlier. Maybe I was playing puppets. I don't remember. But we don't need it to tell the story, do we? Get rid of that. Okay. Well, let's move these a little bit. All right. Today's story is called Jack and the Beanstalk. Oh, all right. Let's get into it. Once upon a time, I love stories that start that way. I'm sorry if I keep saying that, but I really do. Okay. Once upon a time, there was an old woman who lived in a tumble-down cottage with her only son, Jack. Are any of your names Jack? Hello, Jacks in the world. Hello to everybody else, too. They grew poorer and poorer until one day all they had left was their cow. Jack, said his mother, you must take the cow to market and sell her, or we shall starve. And mind you, get a good price for her. The next morning, Jack set off for the market on his bicycle, with the cow trotting along behind on a rope. Well, that must have been a good exercise for the cow, because they don't run that often, I don't think. Along the road, Jack met a man passing by. The man looked at the cow, and then he said to the lad, "Will you swap your cow for some beans?" No, replied Jack. I must sell my cow at the market so that I can buy food to eat. But these are magic beans, said the man, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a few old brown beans. Scatter them on the ground and they'll make your fortune. So, in the end, Jack agreed to swap his cow for a handful of old brown beans. Oh boy, he's going to be in trouble. What would you do? Would you sell the cow for brown beans? I don't know if I would. Seems a little fishy. All right, Jack put the beans in his pocket and went home. Look what I've got, he shouted to his mother, holding out his handful of beans. But the old woman screeched, Is that all you got for my precious cow? She was so angry that she snatched the beans and threw them out the window. She scolded her son and sent him to bed without so much as a crust of bread. Oh boy. The next morning, Jack woke to find a gigantic beanstalk had grown outside his bedroom window during the night. Huge. He ran out of the cottage to get a better look. The beanstalk was so huge that the top of it disappeared into the clouds. I'm going to climb up to the top and seek my fortune, Jack said to himself. And he started climbing up the beanstalk. Come back, Jack, called his mother, but higher and higher up went Jack. At last Jack reached the top of the beanstalk. He looked up to see an enormous castle. Outside the castle door sat a huge giantess. That's a giant, but a woman. They call it a giantess, like a princess. Jack was so hungry that he walked straight up to her and said, "Please, will you give me something to eat? I'm starving." "All right," said the giantess, who was feeling sorry for the lad. "You'd better watch out for my husband, though. If my husband catches sight of you, he'll gobble you right up." Oh, that's not good. The giantess beckoned Jack inside the castle and gave him a huge bowl of soup. It was like a big enough he could swim in. Just as Jack was eating the last tasty drop, was a lot of soup, he felt the castle shudder with the approach of thunderous footsteps. "Quick, hide!" whispered the giantess. Jack slipped behind a mug of tea, and in came the giant, sniffing the air. "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." It doesn't sound like a very nice giant. "Nonsense," said the wife. "It's your dinner you can smell." Satisfied with the answer, the giant sat down again and began to count out his gold into 2 bags. It seemed to take forever as he counted very slowly. At last he yawned, a very big yawn, and sat back in his chair. And soon he was fast asleep and snoring. Quick as a flash, Jack sneaked across the table. He grabbed one of the bags of gold. It was so heavy he had to drag it to the edge of the table and then onto the floor. And he dragged the gold out of the castle and all the way back to the beanstalk. But that was heavy. Jack scrambled down the beanstalk with a heavy bag of gold on his back. "Mother, we're rich!" he cried as he reached the cottage door and poured the gold coins out at her feet. The old woman hugged her son for joy. "Oh, my goodness gracious. We have enough gold to last us for the rest of our lives. We're wealthy now beyond our wildest dreams. So don't ever climb that beanstalk again, Jack," she warned her son. Well, Jack nodded. Sure. But he knew that he wanted more treasure. Isn't that always the case? You get a little bit of treasure. Oh, but what if I could get a little bit more treasure? Oh, and what if I could get a little bit more? And a little bit more? We're never happy with what the little bit we have. We always think we want more. That's not always the case. Sometimes even that little bit is more than enough. Where was I? Okay. The very next morning, Jack climbed up the beanstalk again. Once again, there was the giantess sitting outside the castle door. "Please shelter me," he begged her. The giantess couldn't help but feel sorry for the lad once more, so she beckoned him inside. Soon he felt the castle shudder and heard the giant shouting at the top of his voice. "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. The giant's wife brought him a speckled hen. Lay, ordered the giant. The hen laid the beautiful golden egg. Popped it right up. Right on command. The giant put the egg in his pocket and fell asleep. That'd be pretty cool to have a hen do that. Lay golden eggs. It'd be quite the thing at Easter time, wouldn't it? Anyway, let's get on with the story. Jack tiptoed across the table, then he picked up the hen and made off with her down the beanstalk. Jack's mother was overjoyed to see the great pile of golden eggs that the hen laid outside her door. We have all we need now. What with the bag of gold and the golden eggs? Don't climb the beanstalk again, and don't disobey me this time, his mother scolded. The very next morning, however, Jack couldn't resist climbing up the beanstalk just once more. It's always just one more time, isn't it? The last time, he promised himself. Well, no. Jack waited until the giantess came out with a bucket. Then he tiptoed into the castle. Soon the castle walls began to shake, and Jack heard the giant roar. Fee-fi-fo-fum! I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. The giant sat down and called for his wife to bring him his golden harp. Sing, ordered the giant. The harp began to sing the most beautiful song. At first the giant listened to the harp's lovely music, but soon he fell asleep as usual. You ever heard the harp play? Very nice. Put you right to sleep. Oh, I snapped. Can you snap? Snapping's fun. Okay, Jack sprang across the room and seized the harp. Then he made off with it, and the harp began to wail, Master, master, help! I'm being stolen! The giant awoke and with a mighty roar chased after Jack as he headed for the beanstalk with the harp under his arm. As he climbed down the beanstalk, Jack could hear the giant close behind him. The farther down he went, the closer the giant was behind him. And as he reached the bottom, Jack shouted out, Mother, quick, fetch the axe! Oh no, they're going to cut it down. Jack's mother ran to fetch the axe. As soon as Jack reached the ground, she began to chop furiously at the beanstalk. Chop, 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 went the axe, until finally there was a great sound of ripping, and the beanstalk tore in half. The giant was left hanging on to the top half of the stalk, and there was nothing he could do except shake his fist and shout angrily in his rage, Arr! But what with the 2 bags of gold, a hen that laid golden eggs, and a giant harp that sang, Jack's mother was more than contented, and readily forgave her son's disobedience. Jack and his mother were now beyond rich of their wildest dreams. Let's buy a car, Mother, said Jack. So first they bought a car, and then they found that they had enough money left over to buy back their beloved old cow, and plenty more besides. And Jack, his mother, the cow and the speckled hen lived happily ever after. Well, what an interesting story that was. I'm not really sure I liked it all that much. 'Cause, so the little boy went up to the clouds on the beanstalk and basically he stole a big bag of gold, and then he stole a hen that laid eggs, and then he stole a harp, and all the things belonged to somebody else, and then almost killed the giant. He was just up there minding his own business. Who knows? He must have been working in the cloud fields or something, and when he wanted to come home and relax, and every day he gets something stolen from him. I don't know. And the giantess, she felt sorry for the little one. I bet she don't anymore. Whew. Oh boy, I don't know who to root for. Sure, they lived happily ever after, but what about the giant and the giantess? I don't know. What did you think of the story? I'd love to know what you thought of it in the comments. Do you think that Jack did a good thing? Or do you think Jack is a thief and really should go to jail? I don't know. You let me know, and I'll get my next story set up to read to you. So I'll see you next time on Story Time with Dog. And I love you, and thank you for coming to listen to me. Okay.